All right. Well, hello everyone. My name is Jake Wyman. I'm the Communications Director for the Idaho Freedom Foundation. I want to welcome you to today's edition of Capital Clarity, where we discuss something that has been a long time coming, the repeal of Idaho's infamous grocery tax. Why is it so infamous? There are three main reasons. First, we are currently only one of 4 states in the nation that still fully taxes our groceries. Illinois and Oklahoma both voted to repeal their grocery tax just last year. As a state that purports to care about its taxpayers, we are behind 46 other states in getting this done. Second, an overwhelming majority of Idahoans support the repeal. In a recent poll, it was found 87% of Idaho's residents want to see the tax eliminated, with the majority hoping for tax cuts in general this year. The governor recently stated that he wanted to see a reduction in $100 million in taxes, and House leadership said they would like to see a reduction of $300 million. Repealing the grocery tax would provide a total of $406 million in relief to all Idahoans, far exceeding targets set by both the governor and the House, and there is no reason to stop there. Speaking of the governor, the third reason it is so infamous is because this repeal is something that has been promised by both the legislature and Governor Little for years. In fact, repealing the grocery tax was something then Lieutenant Governor Little ran on in 2018 when former Governor Otter vetoed a repeal. Just 2 weeks ago, however, our governor struggled to define what groceries were, asking if a curling iron would be exempt from the tax if purchased at an Albertsons or Winco. Luckily, though, we have 2 leaders of the liberty movement here in Idaho that will fight to keep our tax dollars in our own pockets, Senator Christy Zito and Senator Glenneda Zuiderveld. We also have a bonus here, Senator Josh Cole, that will be speaking today. Our first speaker is Senator Zito, a longtime champion of the repeal. Senator Zito has previously served in the House for 2 terms and was first elected senator in 2020. In 2022, Senator Zito chose not to run for re-election to help fight for our constitutional rights with the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. But luckily for us, she chose to run in 2024 and is back in the Senate fighting for Idahoans. Please welcome Senator Christy Zito.
All right. So do I speak into this or just speak? Okay. Okay, thank you. I am so honored to be here today to see so many of you that take time out of your very, very busy lives to show up at Capitol Clarity and keep on top of what's happening in the legislature. Just to kind of brag a little bit on some of us, we do Substacks. You can subscribe to our Substacks because we send out even more detailed information in our Substacks about the shenanigans, the going-ons, the backroom deals and talking, so that you absolutely know the good, the bad, and the ugly about what's happening in your legislature. I'm really honored today to talk about the grocery tax repeal. I've served in the Idaho legislature since 2017, and I can guarantee you that that has been on the plate every year since then. So I think we're getting pretty close, maybe to 10 years that I know of when it comes to this. So why is the grocery tax repeal so important? The grocery tax repeal is important because it's an immediate effect. Our citizens, our families, our growing families, our senior citizens, people of every walk and economic level in our state will feel the grocery tax repeal immediately. This isn't something we have to wait for a cute little check from the governor at the end of the year or something that we have to try to figure out in our income tax return. This is something we can feel right now. One of the arguments that I always hear about this is, well, how are we going to know what groceries are? Well, it's really pretty simple because the SNAP program identifies groceries, and so it's really easy for the merchants to just move that over when they're program this into, maybe when you had to go through and hand mark everything, but everything's electronic now. It would be a very smooth changeover. We've had people speak with the grocery industry, and they've verified that this is not that big a deal. The other thing, and this is one of my pet peeves, is, well, what about those out-of-state people that come here, and vacation or fish or, whatever it is they do, and they don't pay grocery tax? Well, my family and I, when my kids were young, we traveled a lot. I've been to on every back road in the state of Idaho at one point or another. This is when I lived in Utah. I don't remember them all. I have to apologize. So if you ask me about some little podunk city somewhere, I might not remember where it is, but I've probably been there. So when I traveled with all of my kids in a car for at least a month at a time sometimes, I'll promise you we did not buy a lot of groceries out of the grocery store. We ate out because there was no place to cook it. And when people come here to hunt and fish, they probably are going to bring their groceries with them before they get here. Yeah, they might pick up a few things here and there, but I don't think that's a valid claim. Who I do see it hurting most of all, besides our families, are our businesses that live on the border. This puts our border towns at a distinct disadvantage because I know people who go to Oregon for various things, and they'll buy their groceries and they'll buy their clothes. My first interaction with the fact that there was no grocery tax on food or sales tax at all was clear back in 1977. And I went to the National High School Rodeo Finals in Helena, Montana. And all of these people that I was up there with in August, they were going to go buy their school clothes because they didn't have to pay sales tax on their clothes. And that was my first introduction to the idea that there wouldn't be tax on just everything. So I'm not going to talk a whole bunch more on this other than, those are my positions. Those are what I've seen. And I do know for a fact that at one time or another, most everybody that serves in this building today, set here on your vote, has campaigned on eliminating the grocery tax, eliminating the tax on our food to lessen that burden on our families. So right now, I'm going to turn the time over to Senator Josh Cole. Now, Senator Cole has the distinction, if I'm not mistaken, of being the youngest person ever elected to the Idaho Senate, possibly the Idaho legislature. But don't let that fool you not for 1 minute. In the 3 weeks that I have served with Senator Cole, I have come to respect him. When he speaks, I listen. He's one of those that doesn't have a lot to say. He's not chatty like some of the rest of us. But when that man speaks, you had better be listening because it's worth hearing. So, Senator Cole, if you would come up here, I'm going to give you this cute little microphone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all for being here today. It's a real distinct honor to get to serve with individuals who were your childhood heroes. Yeah. Well, I'm young enough. I'm young enough to where it works. When I was growing up as a teenager, as an older teenager, we always heard about in the state legislatures, Senator Zito, and before that, Representative Zito, holding the line for our liberties and really being the definition, the backbone of conservatism throughout Idaho. I didn't even know where she was from. I just heard about her on the radio. I read her name in the news, and I knew that I respected her for holding the line when sometimes it was only her. So when I learned that she was running and I was running, I was very excited. And they say don't meet your heroes, but in this case, I have yet to be disappointed. The character in Senator Zito, it's what you see is what you get. So I'll stop embarrassing you now, but figured I had the opportunity, and I really do appreciate getting to serve with you. Speaking of the grocery tax, that's another one that I heard about pretty much all my life. In Idaho, that was the tax that we were always promised year after year by the politicians that we sent to this very capital. And it made sense. I was very, not even middle class family. We were on the poverty line, 6 children, struggled to pay the bills every single month. And that was in the good times of the economy. That's when the dollar had much greater value than we all know it does today. I can't imagine trying to feed a family like my parents had to do in today's economy with today's dollar and today's grocery prices. So the urgency for grocery tax repeal is actually greater now more than ever. It is the most readily available tax relief that we can provide the citizens of Idaho. You'll hear different talking points. We want to get $100 million worth of tax relief to the Idaho people this year. But as was mentioned, grocery tax dwarfs that. We could get $410 to $420 million back in the pockets of Idahoans who are struggling to put food on the table every single month. And I think that is a worthy goal. So I have a few notes here. One of my thoughts was, we talked about the SNAP benefits. This is a very easy to implement tax. Grocery tax comes under fire from individuals who sometimes want to prioritize other tax relief measures that oftentimes never see the light of day. It's easy to talk about property tax repeal. It's hard to implement that in a realistic, practical manner. It is extremely easy to implement grocery tax repeal. So a lot of individuals talk about the morality of taxes. We have a ranking, right? Oftentimes, income tax or property tax is listed as the least moral tax that we can put on citizens. And sales tax is called more moral or just because it's a voluntary tax. People can choose what they spend their money on. I agree with that, actually. But there is an exception to that, which is buying food to survive, to live. That's not voluntary. We have to eat. So if we're going to make that argument about the morality of sales tax, we should also make a carve-out within that tax for items that are non-negotiable for one's survival. And the top of that list is groceries. So by implementing the grocery tax repeal, really, we're actually fulfilling that narrative to the reality to where sales tax now is a voluntary tax on everything that you buy, thereby making it a moral tax. And I think at that point, you can run with your narrative. At that point, we can talk about reducing income tax. I would like to see eventually repealing income tax. Let's work down the list. But we have to find the most pressing item on that list. Number one is going to be grocery tax repeal for the reasons stated. There's another item on the technical side. A lot of concern comes to that local governments get a kickback from the sales tax by the state. So the state collects the sales tax, and local governments at the moment get 11.5% of that sales tax in total redirected back to them, the various taxing districts. And I've talked to many local administrators, local government officials who had concerns that local cities, local fire departments would actually lose funding if we saw any reduction in the scope of sales tax. Thereby, grocery tax would affect them, right? So our draft legislation that we have intended to put to votes this year would actually increase that amount from 11.5% to 13.2% to redirect to local governments. So local governments using our bill would not see any reduction in revenue. So what that means for citizens is no reduction in services. I think there's a lot of positives to grocery tax, and honestly not a lot of negatives. The negatives that there are, we've taken back, we've worked on. Things like the revenue sharing to local governments, we've improved. What we have now is pretty bulletproof legislation. So, an action item for you folks would be to get a hold of your legislators and encourage them to vote for grocery tax and push for grocery tax, not just on the floor, but in the backroom conversations and in setting the agenda items. That's where we need your support. We need, as Senator Zuiderveld always mentions, the 12th man. That's you guys on the field with us, putting not just, I don't want to say pressure, but I'll say encouragement to your local representatives to get this across the line. This has been promised almost my entire life. I would like to actually see it delivered to the people of Idaho. We are one of, I think, less than 5 states that tax groceries on their citizens, and that needs to change. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That was great. Please give it up again for Senators Christy, Zito, and Josh Cole. Our next speaker is Senator Zuiderveld, who is on her 2nd term in the Senate. A strong proponent of repealing the grocery tax, she has written extensively about how this will help Idaho's families fight against the inflated cost of food, stating, "It is time to give Idahoans the relief they deserve and make them our top priority." Please welcome Senator Glenneda Zuiderveld.
Thank you for showing up today, and man, do I have to bring this home. I mean, following Christy, Senator Zito, and Senator Cole, we're truly blessed. We are truly blessed in the Senate. I think this is probably the best and strongest Senate we've had in a long time. This is going to be the year that we should be able to bring you guys some kind of relief. And if we don't, let us know. You know, you like I always say, you are our boss. And being our boss, you need to make sure that you're present and letting us know and hear from you. You need to stay engaged and informed on what we're doing. And a lot of my talking points were taken, which that's what makes us such a great team. But there's some information that they didn't share. And some of the information I'll share right up front here is where this bill is at this moment. On the House side, we have Representative David Levitt and Representative Lucas Kaler that will be sponsoring it on the House side. And that's where we were going to begin this bill, because they say all of the tax bills need to start on the House side. Even though this isn't actually increasing, it's removing. We could start it on the Senate side, but out of respect for the chambers and how they do everything, we thought we'll give the House a chance to let us present this on the House side. So Representative Levitt and Kaler went to the Tax and Rev over on the House, which is Representative Cannon, to ask if they could get this RS heard and get the ball rolling. It had stayed there for about 2 weeks with nothing being done, and then just to the beginning of this week, I think Tuesday, They went back and talked to him, and he really didn't have any intention in hearing this. And so now we are going to bring it over to the Senate side in hopes that they will hear it in Rev and Tax on the Senate side, which is Senator Ricks is the chairman, and we do have an appointment to visit with him on it. But here's the thing. They're not real confident or maybe courageous to say, we're going to get this done for the people. And I can feel the tide is that we probably are not going to even get it heard on the Senate side unless you guys put pressure. I shouldn't say pressure, but pressure works. Yeah, pressure works. I'm on the other end of that pressure, and trust me. But to call and encourage them to hear this, because this is not my bill. This is your bill. This is not Senator Cole's, Senator Zito's bill. This is the people's bill that is going to bring some immediate relief. And in all the different, the grocery tax, the income tax, and the property tax, in my opinion, this is the easiest lift, or it should be the easiest lift to give you immediate relief in your pocketbooks. And so, and like Senator Zito said, both chambers have been working hard to get this passed. And actually, they did pass it in both chambers to have it vetoed by Governor Otter. And then they weren't able to override that veto. And I can't remember the date. You'll have to forgive me. I have way too many tabs open in my brain right now. I'm learning J facts, so to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on up there. So this should be the easiest relief for you. And, and like Senator Cole said, as it is a tax that we should not have to pay on something that we have to survive. And I get a lot of questions on how this is going to be. So one of the concerns from some of our senators and representatives is this going to, if we remove this grocery tax, the grocery stores are just going to increase their prices, and so they're not going to get any relief. Well, that is untrue. I went and did the research on different states that do not have property tax, and I took Albertsons, Costco, Fred Meyer's, your chains, and I pulled up their grocery store ad and Idaho's grocery store ad. They were identical. So Oregon and Nevada and all these other states that do not charge grocery tax, their ads and the prices of their food was exactly the same price as Idaho. I also talked to a lobbyist that lobbies for the grocery stores. And I asked her, is this true? Will you guys raise the prices? And she says, absolutely not. She says, we're a very competitive market. She says the prices won't be increased. And so that we debunked that. So that should not be an excuse why they don't want to allow this to come to fruition. I don't even know if I said that word right. But anyway, so, there's a lot of I don't know, I would call it deceit. I'm just going to call it what I think it is. There's a lot of deceit that they're wanting to hold on to this grocery tax. Sitting on the JFAC, which is Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, I've been learning a lot. We have the ability to not only give you a grocery tax repeal, we could also give an income tax cut and a property tax cut. We have so much waste that we could actually give this back to you, and then it will actually help our economy. So when you're going to go buy groceries and now you're not paying that 6%, a lot of people are going to go and buy shoes for their children because now they have money to go do that. That still goes into our revenue. That money that they're saving on grocery tax is still going to be put into Idaho's revenue. We are not going to lose out on that at all. So, and like Senator Cole had shared about the revenue, and I really want to make sure that this is clear. We are not increasing taxes on this at all. So they're like, oh, you're going to take it from here, you're going to increase somewhere else. No, we are not increasing taxes, but what we're doing is we're increasing the amount of money that we're taking from the Idaho state revenue, from the 11.5 to 3.2, So it does not harm what's going to our cities to make sure that you get all the services that you're used to having. So it's not going to harm them at all. It's not going to be increased at all. Another thing that's talked about is they want us to remove the grocery tax credit. Well, Idaho Freedom Foundation actually put out a timeline, and that grocery tax credit actually began as an income tax credit. That is what that is. And so we are not going to touch that. You're going to get that. We might even go and try to change the wording in that where it just goes back to the income tax credit. But because we are doing this repeal does not mean that we are going to take away that credit. We are here to fight for you to make sure that you get more money of your hard-earned money back. And I just want to make sure that was clear to everybody. And like Senator Cole had said, it is important. You are the 12th man. That's what I call you guys. It's like Seattle Seahawks. You know, when they're needing somebody help for a play, and they would do this, and they would be so loud that the other team could not hear what the other team was. They couldn't hear the plays. They couldn't, figure it out. They were so loud. That's what we're needing from you, is to be that loud voice. And because that will help us get across the line for you. It's very important that you do that. And then there's going to be some other bills that coming forward that's going to give some help to you. And if we can work hard and make sure that we are focusing on the policies that are before us and not the personalities, we should be able to do a lot for our people. We need to start realizing that we're not in high school. We are not here to play games. This is about your livelihood, and it is about making sure that we pass policy that will give you guys more freedoms, more liberties, more money back in your pocketbook. And we know there was another one that was just sharing that they said we're not having this inflation. I don't want to name names, but I just thought it was interesting that they think that we're not in inflation. Well, obviously they haven't been to the grocery store. They haven't been in the grocery store, because I just went to Costco before session began to get me some snacks and just different food for here in Boise. Spent over $200, and I got very little. And you got to think that was 6% that went to the state. The only person who's really getting rich on our sales tax is the government. So when inflation goes up and we're paying more, that 6% is going into there. So our government is the only one that's getting rich in this process. And we definitely have enough to pay our bills if we were just a little bit more frugal in making sure that we start telling a lot of these agencies no. They don't like the answer no. And I get it, because a lot of these agencies work for the government. So they want to make sure that they're going to keep their jobs. I get that. But a lot of these things that are going on in our government would not actually fly in an everyday business. If you were, your electrician business, your landscaping business, the things that they do in our government, people in business outside of the government could not do. They would start making cuts. Well, it's time for us to start making cuts so that we can show you relief at this time. And so as we go forward and we fight to try to get this through, there's a couple other options, because we're going to fight tooth and nail to the very end to make sure that this is heard in the House and the Senate. And please let your senators and representatives know that you need to go and do something for us. This is immediate. It could pass through the House, it could pass through the Senate, and it could be signed by the governor, because the governor also ran his campaign on removing the grocery tax repeal. And so we need to make sure that you guys are keeping us to our promises and making sure that we're doing that for you. And that's about all I have to say without repeating a lot of the information. And I don't know, you probably have time for some questions. Is that what you plan on doing? Okay. Uh, no, there's no bill number right now. We can't even get a bill number right now. They won't even hear the RS to put it before the committee to get an RS. And just like she had her hand raised first. No, no, no. Okay, I wasn't real clear on that. And let me repeat the question for people that are listening in. So she's asking me, with me doing the research on other states with our state, how are we actually going to pay less? So what I'm saying is right now, let's say a can of goods is $2 in Oregon and it's $2 here. We're actually paying more right now because we're paying 6% on that. Does that make, we are. So we're right now with the grocery tax, we are paying more money because we pay 6% more than Oregon does on that goods. They were also, you can come up. So what they're saying, what they're trying to tell us is that if we remove that 6%, that the grocery stores are going to raise their prices in Idaho 6% because now they don't have that tax. And that's a false. That's not true. But yeah, did I make that clear for you?
It's like the opposite, and that's fine. Just as long as you say they're going to drop the prices.
No. So what
Can
I'm,
I just,
yes, okay.
so we go to the grocery store, we go to Walmart here, a can of beans is $2. You go to Walmart in Oregon, a can of beans are $2. Exact same thing, the prices are exactly the same in both stores. When you check out at the Walmart in Oregon, you check out and the total cost of everything is just exactly that on food. There's nothing added at the checkout. It's $2. When you check out in Idaho, the can of beans is $2. Then when they finally tally everything up and you pay the bill, they add 6% for taxes on top of it. Yeah, that's how it is.
And then the other state, when you talk about speaking with the legislators, I will let you know right now, and I'm sorry, I'm old and I'm naming names. Moyle is out fighting this.
Absolutely. He
Absolutely.
has been for years.
Yeah.
He's not at all.
Exact opposite of what you stated. Well, everybody has to buy groceries. Ergo, everybody being taxed. But like you said, I need to travel. I don't buy anything if I don't
Yeah.
got it at home.
Yeah. And you know what? And it's true. He is the stumbling block. You know, that it's no secret that he's a stumbling block here. And then they also want to say that because of, if we remove the grocery tax, then those that are traveling through are not paying their fair share. But I'm saying, why do we want to punish our own people just because you're wanting to get a little bit of money from the one that's traveling through? And the people that are traveling through, most of them are not going to your grocery stores. They're stopping in at restaurants. They're buying something else. So that is a very, very small argument, and we should not be punishing our Idaho citizens with a tax just because we're trying to get it from our.
And then when you travel, you pay hotel tax, an extra hotel tax if you stay in a hotel. So it's not like we're not taxing people that pass through. And besides that, what does that say about the tourism industry in Idaho? Come to Idaho so we can tax you again and again and again. So.
Yeah, just real quick. One of the beauties of this taxes is that it is truly going to add relief to the middle class and the lower classes. I would mention that some of the pushback we get are from very well-off individuals, and I'm happy for them. I truly am. I love that. But the urgency of the grocery bill that they see every week just is not the same as the lower income families that unfortunately just don't have as much a voice in the Capitol today.
Okay, so he had his hand up next, back there in the gray hoodie.
We don't have an index, not to my knowledge. And the individuals who are saying that, they're using federal numbers. So,
And I think it was the lady in the black next. I'm trying to go in the order that I see you guys raising. So can you repeat that, the first part one?
Yeah, so some of the surrounding states that we are using revenue by people going across state lines, so has the record or data gathered on how much revenue we might be using. Therefore, if we eliminated the collection tax, we would actually be gaining that back.
I personally, yeah, and so she's asking if there's any kind of research on the revenue that we're losing by those going across the border, where they're not paying tax, is a question that was asked. And personally, I haven't done that number. I don't know if Idaho Freedom Foundation has also, maybe they've done some of the research. Have you done any? No. Yeah. Right. Right.
Well, and then if you stop and consider that when our stores and our businesses lose sales money, their income on their sales because people are going across the border to shop, that extrapolates out in other taxes that won't be paid on stuff that would be sold in Idaho. So, income taxes from those businesses are lower because that's being spent in other states. So you would see a net increase in income tax and corporate tax in the state of Idaho from those sales staying in our borders.
Okay. Okay.
Citizens group that showed up to Oregon and they were videotaping the parking lot. And it seemed like, a good portion of the cars over in Oregon had Idaho plates and they were getting groceries there. So
Yep. True. Yeah.
populous in this county. I think if you just get it on a young biking space, you probably follow the mouse.
Right.
What you really got to do is look at where's that revenue being generated from the state to the county and the border of the states there.
Exactly. It's definitely something that I will look into. And then I will take Scott. I seen your hand up next, Scott Cleveland, or either one of you. Yeah, either one. It is. Right. Exactly. I agree. And Scott, go ahead.
I'm not in Magic Valley. I have to stick up for my
But she used to be Magic
I used to
Valley.
have
Generated by the grocery tax. And the second part of that question is, what percentage of that total is paid by the out-of-state visitors. It can't be a very large percentage. So there are things that are valid, but I like to have those figures so I can go argue the point. We're missing out on 5% of a bigger number for this lame argument. Out-of-state visitors pay all this groceries. And you don't have to get to me today.
Okay, well, I can give you an estimate because I sat on the Economic Outlook Forecast Committee. And so our Idaho state revenue is actually very strong from what all of the speakers were telling us. And we brought in about almost $6 billion, or that's our forecast. So let me get that right. I think it's under that, but we are over like $4 billion that we bring in our sales tax. And this is only 406 million. So when you take out the 406 million that we're going to save you guys on grocery tax, and our income is over 4 billion on sales revenue, you can kind of do the math there, but I can get you the exact numbers. So, yeah. No, and that's just an excuse to not give you guys any kind of relief. Okay, Sue, and then we'll do you next, Kay. So I would say definitely call up Representative Cannon, who is the committee chair, and everybody on that committee. And then also your Speaker of the House, Mike Moyle. Tell him that you want this heard and overwhelm him with phone calls and let him say, this is an easy lift, we want it done. And so those would be the pressure points at this time. And then hopefully if you want to go and call on the Senate side is Senator Doug Ricks, and then that entire committee as well. Oh, tax and rev. It's actually government tax and rev. Okay.
I suspect that there isn't a person in this room that cannot follow the logic, legitimate argument we made to remove the grocery sales tax. But that's only half the equation. The other part of the equation is the state's going to lose or will not have $406 million of revenue. So without talking about reducing government costs by $406 million, are you ever going to get the legislature to give up the revenue because they are unwilling to reduce the cost of government? That's something else. So the reason why Boyle will bring it up because he doesn't want to deal with $406 million of lost revenue for other government expenses. So talking about this side of the equation, easy to resolve that, gentlemen, it's logical, but you've got to cut the expenses on this side, or is it going to balance? Nothing will happen.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Thank you for bringing it up.
It's more than a fair point. It is the obstacle.
So here's the thing.
This grocery tax, when Otter vetoed it, why did he veto it?
Well, his statement was he doesn't want to shrink government. Really, that's what it comes down to. And we're more than fine with shrinking government. So
it's ridiculous to have this conversation.
no, here's the thing. The Idaho Constitution mandates a balanced budget every year. The state legislature cannot leave until we have a balanced budget. So
that means they have to cut.
yeah, they will find the cuts. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to add too, we can't forget what we just spoke about here just a few minutes ago, that when people are shopping in our state, rather than going out of state to buy things because there's no sales tax in other states, that will increase our income and our corporate revenue as well. So, well, we don't know. And we could probably stand here and argue this all day, but for the sake of everybody else in the room, we can agree to disagree and then discuss it in the hall after maybe.
Okay, and I want to share something. we have ways to cut our budget bigly. Do Trump bigly. So here it is. And so all of you, there is our Idaho State budget book online for every single person can see everything that is going through the budget. What I see, you can all see. So, for example, but see, we don't have the votes in there that will say, no, we're not going to do that. For example, Health and Welfare is looking to replace 60 vehicles. Do we really need to replace 60 vehicles there? Is it something that we can hold off on? There's a big cut that can happen there. We're working on that. We're looking to see what we can do there. Then we have your history agency. They spent $1 million in 2024 to help them fundraise. So there's areas that we can cut, but your problem is that you have, and you need to be watching, especially your JFAC committee, which is 10 on the Senate and 10 on the House. You need to be watching what we're watching and say, why are we funding that? And you need to tell them that we do not want to fund that, because we do have that ability to say no. But right now we're not. We're not saying no to a lot of waste.
But how do you persuade people to believe, cut the expenses, now we can afford to reduce or to eliminate the groceries? What's going to come first here? If you don't address the cutting of the budget to start with.
But we have been trying.
Little opportunity.
We've been trying to address that. But again, the thing, it comes back to all of you. If your representatives, your legislators are not going and doing and cutting the budget, you know what everyone fears in this building as your legislator out of 105 is re-election. They're afraid of re-election. They want to get re-elected. And so if you're not liking what's happening, then again, I'm going to use the word pressure. Put the pressure on them, say, we can't afford for you to keep doing what you're doing. If you're not going to go do the job we sent you to do, then we're going to have to remove you. We're going to have to fire you. You're fired. You need that. It comes back, you are our boss. So that it kind of comes on you. We're trying to lower the budget. We're trying to give tax relief. But when we don't have the votes, you're going to have to get out there and either find somebody to run or get behind them to help them run to bring that back if you're wanting that. It's not just we're going to go there and stop that, but if you don't have the votes, you don't have the votes.
Would it be true that if the sales tax were limited on groceries first, then that forces the expense side to do something?
That's the goal.
But if you can't do that first, then the grocery thing is failed. No matter what you have to start.
We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere to give some relief, So we'll do the lady in the gray and then the red.
Okay, I'll talk about the Crossing the Aisle partnership. I have a little bit of active experience in that area. So, my last year in the Senate, there was an income tax bill that came through, income tax reduction or whatever they wanted to call it. And so I wanted to make the motion on the floor to send it to the amending order to add some grocery tax repeal. Not to derail it, as it was billed later, but to add grocery tax repeal. We talked to Republicans and no one would stand up with me on the floor to do that. My Democrat colleagues stood up on the floor with me to move the bill to amending orders to try to affect grocery tax repeal. So, I haven't spoken to them this year. Would they be on board with it? I can't speak for them. But the one thing I do know is that if they tell us they will, they will. And so I would assume, as they did before, they might again. But again, I can't speak for them. I do know that at that time they did. And what was the other part of the question? I don't remember. It's an immediate tax relief. I don't know if when you've seen, if it goes into effect July 1st, you will see an immediate difference. There'll probably be some lead time there to put it in play. It shouldn't take that long. But it's a tax relief that you'll feel now. And everybody will feel it, not just people who are property owners or people who are. And the other thing to remember is the government is taking that sales tax and then they hold it and then they divvy you back a check that they're calling grocery tax relief, even though we have the data that shows it started out as an income tax relief and got renamed when it became convenient. So why is it the proper role of government to take your money, hold it for a year, then give it back to you? Because not only are they taking your money, holding it for you, telling you what to do with your money at that moment, but then it costs something to do that. It costs something to collect it. It costs something to process it. And it costs something to give it back to you. Even though it might be digital at this point now, there's still a cost in that. So you are still losing money to have the government hold your money. That's money you could invest. That's money that you could spend on other things that you need. Money that would generate money back into our economy. It's when I was in high school, one of my teachers taught us, and I still believe this today, that money that is paid in a tax is dead money. It doesn't generate anything back into the economy. It's not raw dollars that go back into the economy.
So I'm told that there's really probably only time for one more question, and I promised that you could ask your questions. So.
Nobody in this room that opposed any, opposed any of the straw man arguments about people coming in. We ought to just move past that. I would challenge IFF. I will talk about that. I have a background a little bit. It would be so straightforward to put a campaign to make Zito. It's $400 million. It's but even if all that were successful by the legislature, on the floor, my concern is we don't have a government that has the will to do this. And the gentleman down here is absolutely right. This campaign has to marry $400 million tax relief instantly person and come up with these. IFF has a booklet, right? All the nonsense that's been put against the worksheet. You could put it out there. We'll trade $400 million of this for $400 million of that. And when you put that out in front of the people, because all these people in this room can tell all their neighbors and call, and their legislators, it's not going to move forward. It's not. And I have that. I would challenge you also to put together that list of people who are independent. And we could all call, we could give that list to people. And that actually might work. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. And the systems guy, we've got to move this straightforward.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And honestly, Idaho Freedom Foundation, they're working on so many things to help you help us basically. And so and they get so much heat here because of the good things that they're doing. They're shining light on the dark and they're not liking it. It's like putting salt on an infected wound. They're like, so IFF is that for the people. And that's why they don't like them, because they lobby for the people. They're your lobbyists. They're here doing the fight for you. So that's a great idea. So So I think we're done. Jake?
Thank you for your time.
Oh, you took some of my sheets. That's okay. Thank you, everyone. Please give it up again for our 3 amazing senators. So you will be happy to know that we have a pretty aggressive campaign for the grocery tax coming this week. So this was the introduction for this, and we will have an amazing campaign. We'll be on our website soon. So everything you hit on, we are going to do. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Please come next week. We are going to do school choice. It's a long-awaited thing that a lot of people have been talking about. And we have a representative from the National School Choice Awareness Foundation, Noelle Delaney, here to speak for us. So please come here next Thursday, noon to 1. Thank you very much.